Good morning, and good morning. It is Wednesday. Yay, we've made it into another day. Good morning, good morning. Okay, I'm a little chilly, so I know I have on a cute little shirt and a nice little beautiful necklace, but it's chilly to me, so I have to put on a little jacket. So I take away from the outfit, okay? But good morning. How are you? How has your last couple of days been since I was on? How's it been? Well, I can tell you, it's been a good week, and I've been busy doing some things, and I have my coffee here. It's good. And I also have my today's session. So I wanted to talk about Sheroes. And Sheroes is one of those kind of words that just says who is. I know many Sheroes, many other Sheroes that come on my sessions, into my sessions here while I do my vlog. I'm absolutely grateful to them. They don't know it yet, but I'm going to give them love. Everybody that comes in, I'm going to pay attention to them for a second. But the idea is that we have Sheroes in our lives from the time we start really maturing, from our youth. We start really paying attention to friends and family and frenemies. Come on, sometimes at times, are our friends before they become no longer our friends. But the idea is that we look at our lives as just a point of us passing through. But sometimes when you're passing through, you realize who is really your friend, who's really out for you, who really loves you, who really cares about you, who's really in your corner. And I've had the opportunity to meet so many Sheroes. And my mother was a big Shero. And whenever somebody comes in, I will certainly tell her about that woman, the woman that stands above many women only because they have the skills of leadership, of love, and certainly of life. They understand the significance of how do we live a life. It came with no papers, but yet and still we have it within us to be empathetic and to be understanding and to be kind and willing. And we think about so many women in history. There's a lot of them. We look back through the history of this world that we live in, and you will see great women, women that stood up under pressure. They stood up under slavery. They stood up under having no voice at all, because, you think about women in America. This is Women's Month. We are basically women's history. What women do you know from history that really stood out to you? What women in history, and I can think about, so many people, Eleanor Roosevelt, you know, she believed in women and really was supportive of women long before it was really recognized as having to go through that whole process of suffering and women suffrages. You just think about those women. You think about the first astronauts that were women, or you think about the poets that were women, or the writers that were women, or the teachers. Is you could bring it down to the level of a teacher, and I don't mean down in terms of low level, but I'm saying they become high in a child's life. When a teacher has really taught a child something, you can't separate that child from that teacher and the knowledge that was given, or the knowledge that was shown, or how to have an understanding of learning more, only because this teacher was teaching it, you know. And I can go back through my own history, and I just remember Mrs. LaFleur. Mrs. LaFleur was my first grade teacher. And for some reason, she loved Sandra. That was my name. She loved Sandra, and she just always would have me right by her desk because I was really little and, didn't know I couldn't see back then, but I couldn't see. But she loved me, and she would always say, it's important that I take care of my Sandra. And she did. She always took care of me. She always looked out after who she wanted me to become. And that was one, to be a good student. And then I'm turning off my phone. I see my child is calling me right now, and I'm telling her I'm in my session. But anyway, I apologize for that. But I remember Mrs. LaFleur being such a stellar person. And she was huge in life to me because I was real little, and I remember her being tall and very thin. And but I also remember her being Caucasian with shoulder length brown hair. But she was always good to me, always. She always said, "You can do this, Sandra. You can do this." So she was my encourager. That's from my first grade. You know, I remember other women. I remember Mrs. Jarvis from my high school, who was my high school guidance counselor. And Mrs. Jarvis just always had a love for Sandra, always. She said, "Well," I said, "Well, I don't. We don't. My dad's gone. My father had passed. My mother was by herself, and it was just my brother Tommy and I that were still at home. My brother Ronnie was in the service." She said, "No, you're going on to college." And I said, "I have no money to go to college. I can't go to college." She said, "Oh, we're going to figure that out." So she helped me figure out how to go to school. So I am forever loving the fact that someone saw me, someone recognized that I needed help and I needed to have this SHERO in my life. And then of course, I just think as I've gone through life, I've had other SHEROs. Dr. Paula Tucker Hogan, also once I got to college, became my SHERO, because here I was working as a student union manager, operating the entire student union after the regular business hours. And I was this little woman with some keys and some directions, and I gave everybody things to do this, do that, the paddle balls, handing them out, or the opening up the courts, or the bowling, everything. I did it all. I did it all. And she said one day, "Hey, I need somebody that can watch my children." I said, "I can." And she and her husband became my mentors. So when you think about SHEROs, don't think about, like Wonder Woman and Batwoman. No, 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 no. Bring it down. Bring it down to a level of, these are people that we've met in our lives. For me, my mother was my SHERO. My mother was my great SHERO. She didn't have the opportunities I had, but she was important. She was special. She was a woman of distinction. And so I always talk about Lily, as everybody knows. It comes on my channel. So anyway, let's talk a little bit about a SHERO. What is a SHERO? It says a SHERO is a woman admired or idolized for her courage. Some women with courage, outstanding achievements. My mother never achieved a degree, but my mother could have been a professor. She had the vocabulary with some cussing words in it. Okay. Okay. And it says noble qualities and a heroine. My mother was all of that. All of that. She didn't miss a beat. After my father died, she did not miss a beat. She still took care of her children. She still made sure we went to school. She still made sure that food was on the table and it was hot and our clothes were ironed and we always smelled good and looked good. She carried on. And then after we started getting older and doing things, she was still out there on the battlefield of making sure that other people knew what to do with their children or what her friends needed in terms of her advice. So sometimes a SHERO stands up above many women or many men and do their thing. They're able to hold it down, to anchor it. So it says a SHERO, it says a woman identified as a hero, a woman, a heroine, a feminine admiration, supporting humanity, quality, rights, and oneness. This is Women's History Month. Let's recognize some decent, kind, loving, caring, forward-thinking, and deserving of our appreciation women. Can we do that? I love it. I will continue to do it. So when we break the word down this morning, we talk about the fact that a woman, a SHERO woman, has strength. She's going to show you the strength. And strength is the quality or the state of being physically strong. They're going to do it. If there's something weighting them down, you won't know it. They're going to pick it up. They're going to pick it up. They're going to make sure that it gets done. They understand, as they said, the assignment. That's not mine. That's somebody else that created that. They understand what to do. And even if it comes without instructions, they'll figure out how it can be done and be done in such a way that it will work. It doesn't say that it will cut down on time. It just says that it will work. They're going to make sure that it works. So they're looking at the strength of the power of somebody, the muscle ability of people. It said the robustness, the energy, the force, and the might. When I think of strength, I could think of my mother. I could think of Dr. Hogan. I could think of all of the ones that they've shown us through history that lasted, that they came up through whatever turmoil, whatever frustration, whatever horrible thing was going on in their lives, and they made it through. They made it. They made sure it was their thing to do. So it really talks about what is our strength? Where is our strength? Those of us who are women, are we standing up? Are we doing what we can? Are we bringing up the rear? Like teaching other younger women, younger girls, young ladies, children, girl children, what to expect as they get forward, as they go forward, what's out there for them. Sometimes you can't say what's been taught if it's never, what's been learned if it's never been taught. We have to teach it. We have to teach our children manners. I just always remember being a mannerable child. My mother's friends would always say, "Oh, Sandra is so mannerable." That was taught to us. We didn't have to say yes, ma'am, because we lived in New York, but we had to say yes. No, thank you. I appreciate it. Bye. And hello. Those were all things that gestured wise, they were considered to be decent things that we should do as young people growing, because we were growing in the likeness of what our mothers wanted us to be. Oh, my dad was there. Don't get me wrong. He was there because he would emulate whatever my mother said. But my mother was basically, she was the, total line person. Come here, do this, do that. That's not how you do it. I'm going to show you how to do it, and I want you to do it. And I remember my aunt teaching me how to do a bed, showing me, and patiently. She said, no, you got to fold the sheet a certain way so that it will lay down. You got to make sure that the tuck, so you fold it up, pull it down up under the bottom, and then push it back down. Just things like that, showing me how to be able to be an example for anyone that comes behind me. Even now I teach my daughter how to cook certain things that she loves. I said, well, you need to know how to cook them. I'm not always going to be here. You need to know how to make a meal so that it's a meal that you can enjoy, but it reminds you of somebody that might have been your SHERO. Okay. Then we look at the H of SHERO, which is SH. It's the heroine helper. I like that. The heroine helper, a woman admired or idolized for her courage, outstanding achievements, okay, or nobleness. Basically, she's a winner. She's a star. She's an idol. How many of us have had idols through our lives? It may be that you have idols to people that you see on TV. Maybe you idolize somebody like Oprah or somebody like, Eleanor Roosevelt, whoever it is. You idolize them. Mother Teresa, you see something in them and you want to emulate it to make it where you are one who can give. You are one who is understanding. You are one who has empathy and kindness. I always talk about the fact that if I ever, good morning, Adelia. There's one of my SHEROs. Good morning. How are you? When you meet a SHERO, you and there's a connection, you know them. Their kindness, their kindness is also one that you share. And so when you see somebody, you see another woman, and you can say, very special, my Shero. You know, women, I know some of the younger women are taught to be mean girls. We were taught to be absolutely the opposite of that. We could not be mean to anyone. And if my mother caught us being mean, okay, you know what happened. Okay, I'm just going to tell you. She didn't allow for it. It couldn't happen, you know. Even though people may be mean to you, she still tried to teach us that we needed to worry about how to pull them in and not push them away. Or if she said, if you can't pull them in and be a friend to them, then you just leave them alone and ignore them. You know, oh yeah, there were bullies, there were all those kinds of things, because somebody was bringing a bunch of other people around to try to make a scene. But my mother always taught us how to avoid the scene. Don't involve yourself in the conversations. Don't go back and forth, tit for tat, because when we were little, playing the dozens, talking about your mama and all that kind of stuff was a thing to do, but my mother wouldn't let us engage in it. Couldn't do it. That's why I said my mother was that Shero. She was that one that was able to say, avoid, stay away from, So to me, Women's History Month is really celebrated every day. But I am a woman, so I celebrate myself every day. And I celebrate through understanding that I know other good women. I know other women who are interested. Morning, Cheryl. My mom taught us the same. Thank you, Cheryl. And that's the way it is. When your mother has instilled in you. She was my Shero. Write down who your Shero is. And if it's your mother and you have somebody else, write it down. So my Shero, I had many of them. Okay. And I still have Sheros now. And I don't know if anybody knew Mrs. Margaret Williams, but Mrs. Margaret Williams was like my mother, okay, here in Florida. Because she was just always available to me. We worked together, and I was a young counselor and she was a teacher, and she would just say, hey, don't walk that fast. I need to tell you something. And she'd tell me, settle down. Okay. You're in the South. Understand. I know you're on that fast pace and you're used to doing what you're doing, but I need you to slow it down. I need you to hear me out. And after a while, I slowed it down. I heard her out. And, if her children were here and having her biological children were here and having dinner, then my daughter and I were invited. And we had dinner too. And she made sure after my husband died that whatever I needed, if I needed her, I'm there. I'm there. So she was my Shero too. So when you think about Sheros, it doesn't have to be just your mother. It could be an auntie. It could be a girlfriend. It can be somebody that just has always led you right. And then they were able to show you how much they cared, to show you that they loved you, to show you that you were needed. To me, that's important, that we know that we're needed. So the helper, the heroine, is the Shero. It says they are the winner, the star, the idol. It says they're also the hero, the lioness. They're the idol. They're the ideal woman, and they're sometimes the celebrity. Okay, and it doesn't just mean a celebrity on TV. It's a celebrity in your life. Like everybody knew when my mother was coming, it was like a grand thing, and I just made a big deal over all of my adult life. I let her know how much she was loved. I let her know it because she showed me that as I was growing up. So it always was one that was reciprocal, and I do the same thing with my daughter. I do the same thing. And oh, by the way, if you all can put up a prayer next Friday, my daughter's going to have serious surgery. So put up a prayer for her, and her name is Shayla, Shayla, Shayla. And so she will need the prayer, and I will need it too, just because obviously I won't be having my vlog next Friday, which is the 22nd. I'm going to be with her, and it may run into that Monday, just depending on how, or I might be able to break away. I just see how well she's doing, because they're supposed to keep her there from Friday to Monday or Tuesday. So we'll just see what happens. But y'all be prayerful for, and I will appreciate you greatly for that. So when we move on in our word of SHERO, the E of SHERO for me is empowering. How empowering does a woman, is a woman able to empower you? And that's all based on, I'm going to tell you what it's based on. It's based on that connection. Do you have women that empower you? I do. You all empower me to make sure I have a word, make sure I've researched what the word is all about, make sure that I understand how words generate new words and therefore you can have conversations. That's what I believe to be true. So I say empowering for my E. And it says empowering a woman admired or idolized for her courage, outstanding achievements, and or noble qualities. So all of these words I found are relatable, because I really wanted them to show the connection of what it is that we have with our mothers and our girlfriends. And, it may be an auntie, it may be just somebody who was once the teacher in our school system, or, just a counselor, whatever they were. So maybe it's a member of your church community. It doesn't matter. They become important enough where we see them as a SHERO, you know. And it says encourager. Thank you, Ardelia. And extraordinary, absolutely. Extraordinary women and an encouraging women are who we're talking about today. And it also says when somebody is really looking at the fact that they've been placed in our lives as an empowering soul, an empowering figure. It says, therefore, they're almost giving us a reason to say we are authorized by what we see that we're able to do. We're almost given a personal license to say, invest in not only who I am, but who they are to us. Okay. It says it gives us a permit and an entitlement of saying we stand on what it is that we believe, and we're going to be strong. We're going to be confident. We're going to be caring. We're going to be kind. We're going to be loving. All of those things that come up with what I call Sheroism. Can we have our Sheroism, not just during, Women's History Month, but every day? I carry my Sheroism with me, because I try to be all of those things, where I'm really looking at my strength, giving my heroine speeches to people, telling them that they're encouraged, they're empowered, to do more than what others may think that they can do. Doesn't matter what others think. It's what you think. It's what you think. So also with having this empowerment, it also says that usually Sheros can help us be more equipped and prepared for what we are to face if we pay attention, what we are to face. Because sometimes we are given stuff and we have to go back to somebody that's already been through it to know what to do. That's it. We don't know what we don't know. But if we figure it out, we can speak on it. And then finally, it says it makes us feel okay when we've really heard from somebody who's empowered us to do things. It makes us be more encouraged and have an extraordinary opportunity to just say, you know what, I can handle this. I can do it. Somebody told me I can do it, or they confirmed that I can do it, or they basically encouraged me to do it. So I'm here. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. So when we move on in SHERO, we got reliable. How many times have you met somebody and you can call on them in the middle of the night? Now, I know we can call on God in the middle of the night. He's available 24/7. But a friend, a loved one, an auntie, a woman. Sometimes a woman, you can tell her a story, and not only does she take it in, but she gives it right back out to you in a more way of understanding it, generalizing it, making you calm with it. And there's that reliability, the fact that she is there. It says consistently good in quality or performance. Always there. Always there. You can call on them. You can call on them. Able to be trusted. How many can you tell a story to? And the story is still just a story between two. It's a good story. Okay? Because they didn't make it They didn't make it like an announcement to everybody. They just let it be. They let it be consistently, quiet between you and them. That's it. It says, and they were dependable, well founded, well grounded, valid, definitive. And it says true to you and sound in terms of your judgment of your relationship between each other. That's a good SHERO. If you find somebody like that, stay in touch. Okay, stay in touch with them, because it's just a great quality that you're not hearing something over and over and over again because you told it once, and then it becomes like an echo, because then not only you hear it, someone else hears it, then it gets back to you. In fact, I read a message online yesterday where somebody says it's really interesting that you've never done anything to anybody, but you hear them talking. You hear what they said about you. That's sad to me, that sometimes we realize that no matter how good we've tried to be, someone has decided to be no good, period. It's not that we did anything. It's that maybe we rub them the wrong way because we just continue to try to rise, try to make it our business to make it in to kindness and make it into goodness and worthiness, and they see it as just the fact that they need to be messy, plain and simple. They just want to be the opposite of who you are. And and I just admit that I've seen it happen before, and it wasn't anything that I tried to do. It was what other people thought I tried to do. So sometimes we just have to realize that we're still looking for SHEROs, still looking for them. Come on out. I know you're there, and when I see you, I do acknowledge you. I acknowledge you, SHERO, and you, Ardelia, and Miss Joan, Miss Debbie. There's just so many. I'm not going to name them all, but y'all know that I really have made sure that if you're in this space, Lavender, just the fact that you come in and you go out, that's fine. But usually I see later on where people have come in and looked at my video after it's off, because 9 o'clock is tough. Okay, I'm a 9 o'clock person, but that doesn't mean that they don't come and look later, and a lot of times they do. Now, my O of SHERO is for optimistic. If you find people who are optimistic, okay, and they're also in your corner, and they happen to be a female, okay, they're probably going to be your SHERO, because you want to go to people who are optimistic, people who have an upbeat to them. It's not always the doldrums. It's not always, oh, woe is me, or woe is you. It's like, hey, listen, knock off that. Let's go. Let's have a good time. Let's enjoy life. Let's have an understanding that life is beyond, this moment, this situation we're going through. Let's look elsewhere. Let's go up and not back. Let's be appreciative of who we are and how we live our lives, and not let it be that we're constantly caught up in making sure that we don't have hope, because optimistic says that we have hope, and that we're not confident about who we are and confident about our future. Even now, what's going on, certainly I have pause. Okay, I'm not going to tell you I don't. I have pause. I can't change anything that's going down at anybody's house, let alone the big house, the White House. I have to just still say that for me, God is in control. That's for me. Somebody else may say something else, but I have to find where I'm optimistic at. I have to find a way forward, a way that says that I am not bound by man. I may be feeling limited at times, but it's not my binding that I'm worried about. I want to unbound myself to those kinds of things constantly and be on the optimistic side of my hope. And my hope is also up. My hope is in my heart and in my head. My prayers go up, and my hope is that it's being taken care of regardless of how extraordinarily crazy our lives currently are. Our lives currently are. But anyway, so in my optimism, I want to be cheerful, and I want to find sheroes that are cheerful, positive. That's what I'm looking for you. Confident, love you if you're confident, hopeful, having promise, not being stuck in the rear, but moving forward to whatever the goodness is of life. Reassuring. I don't want to talk to somebody that constantly says, "Oh girl, it's doomsday." You know, you might as well, go get all your money out the bank, build you a bunker, and put it with your food and how you go. I can't do that. I can't. You know, I have to have some favorable conversations. I don't want to be fearful. I don't want to be in angst all the time or anxiety. I want to live my life, and so I look to people, as and today is we're talking about women that are sheroes, women that have made their lives to be positive and not negative, to be up and not down, to be encouraging, not discouraging, to be realistic and not unrealistic, to be positive and not negative. That's what I'm looking for. That's what I love in the sheroes, the ones that come into this room, into this space with me. I love you all because you are sheroes to me, because you continue every day to look for somebody. And I put myself in that position where I want to be positive. And even if I'm teaching you new words that may be negative in their context and content, it doesn't mean that I'm trying to make you negative. I'm just trying to make us aware that life sometimes gives us sagginess. It gives us trouble. It gives us anguish and frustration. But we need to look to our sheroes when we're talking about these folks that, have really lifted us up, our spirit, our consciousness, our hope, our aspirations lifted higher. This in time we all need a share. Absolutely. Always focus on the solution and not the problem. Amen. Amen. Because the problem is the problem, The problem is the problem, And then also I search for, my own resolution. My own resolution just says I'm looking for my peace. I think a few weeks ago I talked about when I come into my house, I need my house to be peaceful. So I don't bring a lot of people in my house, because sometimes the house is your personal space, your personal way to unwind, to decoil, to unravel, So if I'm in a space that a lot of, high, voices and loudness and, arguing and all that, I don't want any parts of it. I'm okay. I'm okay. I want to be on the other side of that. I want to be on the other side. So Shero is the word I chose for this being Women's History Month. And if you still can, and before you leave, write down a Shero in the thread. Write down a Shero. I'm going to give you mine while you're writing down yours. I loved my mother. My mother was my number one Shero, number one. My grandmother was number two because all she had to do is say one word. Everybody listened. She was like E.F. Hutton. She wasn't a big talker, but when she said something, everyone was listening. So that would be my number two. My number three would probably be my daughter's growing into be a Shero. She is. She's growing into be a Shero. My auntie, I love my auntie, and my niece, my auntie Gertrude and my niece Rhonda. But online it's by Hishabe or something like that. I always mix the name up. So I call her Rhonda because, she has that nickname online and Facebook. But that's a Shero for me. Dr. Paula Tucker Hogan is a Shero. Miss Grace Marshall is my Shero. There's just so many of them. Margaret Williams was my Shero. She's going on to glory now. So many. I'm not going to name them all, but I have Sheroes right now in all of my church, my choir members. Many of them are my Sheroes because Dorothy Robinson. I just think of Ida Vita Gerald's. There's so many Sheros out there. Who is your Shero? I'm gonna tell you. I'd love to know. Is it your mom? Is it your auntie? Is it a girlfriend? Who is it? Is it your child? Is it your child? I have too many to name. Okay, that's it. That's it. That's good enough. That's good enough. I'll take it. I'll take it. I'll take it. So anyway, I love you guys. I appreciate you for coming in today. It's hump day, and sometimes on hump day there may be a slump day. I said it. But anyway, just keep doing what you're doing, remaining to be a Shero for somebody. Stand up for somebody that you can, show them that there is hope, there is understanding. And what did I say? That there is strength in you, and then that there's a heroine to be helped, not only for them, but they help you, that you're empowering them to understand who they are. You're reliable, that you're always there, and that you hope to always be optimistic in their view and in your own view. So there you go. That's today's session. Hope you enjoyed it. Do nothing less for me today than hit that share button and let the message be shared that Dr. Winnie's around. I'm here only to make your life as best I can, in a Shero moment, or in every other word that we call, are you stuck? And yes, occasionally in life, we will get stuck. Have a wonderful Wednesday, and I'll be back on Friday. Take care of yourselves. And yes, Cheryl, there's a Shero village. See y'all later. Okay, thank you. Ciao, bye.